Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to tonight's episode of Talking Points. I'm your host, Syed Neaz Ahmad. In the beginning, I would like to express the condolences of myself and the NTV family on the untimely death of Dhaka North Mayor, Mr. Anisul Haq. He was a close friend of ours. He was a man of vision. He had promised to do a lot of things. He had achieved a lot of things for Dhaka and Dhaka's people, but fate did not go with him. Anyway, that's the way it happens in the world. Rest in peace, Mayor Anis. We come back to our guest today. He's a man of peace, Mr. Vijay Mehta, an author, an activist, and his services to the peace, the world at large, has been recognized by many, including the Sunday Times. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much.
How are you today?
Me. I'm very well, thank you.
I understand that your office is not very far from here, so you did not have much trouble.
No, it's only a couple of miles. It's down the road in Cavell Street,
right.
Commercial Road.
There are a lot of jokes about peace. People fight for peace and people don't fight for peace. Peace is the absence of war, and there are many funny expressions, see. Last week you had organized, and you really were the soul and spirit behind that conference about peace and faith.
Religion.
Peace and religion. That's a very interesting topic. We'll talk about that, see. But you as an author and chair of Uniting for Peace, and also you had a charity called Fortune Forum. What do you think peace is? How would you describe peace?
Well, people do say that peace is absence of war, but I think peace is ever so fundamental to our life, because without being at peace, you could not function. You could not, for example, we could not sit in this room if the fighting was going on.
So you're talking about peace, inner peace.
Inner peace, or at an individual level. And same goes for nations. When nations cancel the motives for war, and that is where peace comes in.
Yeah.
When they say to each other, we could sit down, have dialogue and diplomacy and sort out our problems, instead of, like in the past, send our armies and sort it out.
Right.
We like to sort it ourselves. And that, in a way, you can call it peace. Of course, there are many other definitions of peace, like conflict resolution, prevention of conflict, disarmament, and non-violence. That's a big part of peace. And many other facets, like economic and social justice, for example, environmental protection, all these, and inequality. They all form part of peace. Imbalance in life and in situations, the rich and the poor.
Yeah. Between nations.
Nations and the rich and the poor, powerful nations and weak nations.
Your book, Peace Beyond Borders, that was published in 2016, and it has received rave reviews, including the Sunday Times, see. And the subheading of the book is How the EU Brought Peace to Europe. And it can be exported beyond Europe, see, beyond the borders, see. So most of us understand that after the Second World War, Europe was at peace until the Soviet Union was turned into pieces, and then it was like bees coming out of their homes. You see.
Yeah, correct.
And the trouble started in the Central Asian states, see, in Eastern Europe, see.
Correct.
And what happened in Albania and Serbia and Kosovo, all this was not peace, see.
No.
You see. Nations and people who had been living for decades together suddenly found that the breakup of USSR provided them an opportunity to start claiming probably more land, uh, ethnic cleansing, and belonging to a sense of belonging to their own smaller nations rather than what USSR promised. How do you think that Europe can? I mean, there is peace in Europe.
Sure.
Yep. Europe can really export peace to the world.
Okay, let me just go back into history, which is not really very old history. After the Second World War, when about 60 million people were perished or killed, leaders of France and Germany, sworn enemies, always fighting with each other, and even UK, they decided enough is enough, and let's sit down and start a dialogue in which we do not fall into a trap of a third world war.
Right.
And they went into forming a coal and steel industry, then EEU and a European community, and then finally they came up with European Union. And the thing is that after they formed the European Union, all the things in the past which were settled on the battlefield between France and Germany and UK and all that, now are settled in either Brussels or Strasbourg, in the parliament, in the all-night sessions.
Right.
So we have come to a stage where instead of rolling in the troops and fighting each other, we are settling our disputes non-violently. And believe me, this has the 70 years of peace in Europe has the longest peace in the history of Europe. If you go into the back history of Europe, there was Second World War, First World War, 100-year war, 30-year war. There have been wars for the last 1,000 years.
Right.
So this is people don't understand it, that it is one of the single most outstanding achievements of our modern times. And now coming to your question of how we can export it, the thing is
Can I add
go on.
a sub-question to that? While we are exporting armaments, can we also export peace?
while we are exporting
Armaments. I mean, there are
armaments, yes.
major.
No, there are two sides to it. That the peace in Europe based on economic truce and trade, like all these countries, bigger ones and smaller ones, are doing billions worth of trade with each other. So they don't want to go to war and spoil all those proceeds of the peace. Now, armaments, yes, I agree that this is one of the primitive things with the mankind, that we believe in the security of our country and citizens through the barrel of a gun. We think by weaponizing ourselves, our streets of London and New York will be safe. So that is a fallacy which the work I do. In other words, we need a culture shift. We need the change of mindset by saying that if we could ever have achieved peace by going to war, we would have done it by now.
Yep.
So why we have got wars, 16 years going on in Afghanistan, 13 years in Iraq, 7 years in Syria, and now
we have Yemen.
Saudi Arabia. Now the unfortunate thing is, because we are sitting in this, our own country in the United Kingdom, we are a culprit in the sense that we have armed Saudi Arabia from 2012 and now, 6 billion worth of armaments. And they are bombing Yemen, and the 600,000 people in Yemen are starving. It's a famine there.
Yep.
And UK, by selling arms to Saudi Arabia,
By default.
we are complicit in it. We are part of the crimes against humanity. So the point is, it's so diabolical that a country, a sixth richest country in the world, we could make money some other ways.
Yep.
We don't have to sell armaments, and which the only use of weapons is to kill people. So
the point is that the weapons are sold to both the parties, see? Apparently to both the
not
parties.
in Yemen.
No, not in Yemen, see, not in Yemen.
No, I
But
agree
in-
your
but
wider
in-
point
Yes.
that they are sold. I remember when Tony Blair was the Prime Minister, and he in a plane went to India and Pakistan with about 150 businessmen.
Yeah, yeah.
So when he went to India, he sold them the weapons and the aeroplanes and the bombs and etc. Then he went to Pakistan and did the same, knowing very well these two countries
We'll fight.
will fight with each other. So that is our leaders are. They are morally bankrupt. They are called leaders. For example, Tony Blair, he went to Iraq and millions of people have killed. And even now, Iraqis are being killed. And,
Well, he
and
says that he was misinformed.
is that then whose fault? He was the leader. So he listen. If I
It's the businessmen who
listen,
want to sell the
at this
weapons.
at this moment, my car broken down, and I have sent it to one garage,
Right.
and he gave me a overblown estimate. I
Right.
picked up the car and I have gone to another garage. So it was the duty of Tony Blair to investigate,
Yep.
have a second opinion, third opinion, fourth opinion, fifth. The point is you are sending army and weapons to kill millions of people. Isn't the duty of a leader to check whether his or her information is correct?
Right.
Robin Cook, who was the foreign secretary
Yep.
at that moment, and because the Labour government was pursuing a ethical foreign policy, he resigned very rightly. He was a man of principle. And later on, Claire Short, the international development
Yes.
secretary, she resigned. Because people who have got principles, they don't mess around. They don't kill people. They resolve things sitting on the table like you and me are sitting, and settle our differences.
I again go back to my earlier point, see. The businessmen are always at the back, see. We don't see them, the shadow, they are in the shadows, see. And they are the ones who really finance the big political parties, see, provide the funds, see. So, to run the business, see, the arms trade is a multi-trillion industry.
Sure, sure.
And they are the ones who provide the money, the power to the wheels of the political parties, and they control, they call the shots. You see.
Sure. Now the point is, very rightly, on 2016, around 1.83 trillion worth of arms were sold all over the world. That is according to SIPRI, the Stockholm Peace Institute. Just imagine what we could have done with that amount of money, number one. Number two, what is the result of that armament spending? It has created violence, chaos, disorder all around the world by the wars. And this year, a survey published by Global Peace Index said that 14.3 trillion has been lost to violence. Violence like terrorism, like wars, like domestic violence, like rapes, like murder, like homicide, all these kind of violence. So we are not talking here of a small amount of money. We are talking here of 14.3 trillion US dollars.
Okay, sir, we need to take a break here.
Okay.
And when we come back, we'll be armed with more arguments.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Don't go away. We'll be back after this short break.